This is the sound heard echoing from Long Beach's trash incinerator on a daily basis since the late 1980s. Long Beach is one of two California cities left that still burns their trash. The incinerator, known as SURF, is operated by an energy company called Covanta and has been flagged by the EPA for the hazardous pollutants it creates. Despite being a part of Long Beach's community for over 30 years, not many of its residents seem to know about it. Today I talked to Katherine, a volunteer at Long Beach Community Compost, who is part of a growing number of young people that are speaking out about the incinerator's effects.
Hi there, my name is Katherine Moreno. And during the pandemic, I was part of some visioning sessions that were working towards a future free of trash burning in Long Beach. Like I was introduced to issues I didn't really know about from people that live next to the incinerator and got to hear like their community, their input on how to create, a sort of what they suggested towards creating a zero waste plan, basically.
That's very, very cool. Could you tell me a little bit more about the incinerator in general and maybe some of the effects that you know it has had on the community and the environment in that part of Long Beach?
From my understanding, from what I learned about the incinerator, is that basically um, it was built around in the 80s and it's surrounded right there in the port.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think well, not I think I know it's been sort of greenwashed into being seen as this like good alternative. And there was a bill passed in the 80s where basically, in order to, you know, recycle and reduce and all that, 50% jurisdictions had to, compost, reduce, and recycle at least 50% of their trash. And there was this loophole where incineration was considered, could be considered 10% of that 50%, if that makes sense.
Okay. So there
Yeah,
would
and
be an incentive for the city to use the incinerator.
exactly. Cool. So basically, they recently just passed a new bill called AB 1857, and it is going to stop treating incineration as recycling, and it's going to be removing that diversion credit that's sending the trash to the incinerator. So it won't count anymore as quote unquote like recycling, which
Okay.
yeah. So that's um, that's a nice step, I guess, towards a better direction. It's I mean, it's not labeling the incinerator as something that it's not really.
Hmm. And but the incinerator is still like fully operating now and it will be until 2024, right?
Yeah, it's still operating.
Okay. So to that end, it's still that presents a whole new issue like after the fact, once their contract is up, like where do they go from there? Have
Yeah.
you discussed with like the other people that you have worked with in the past on what their ideal alternative would be?
Yeah, so that's where it gets tricky because the contract ends in 2024.
Mhm.
And basically, if they agree to renew the contract, they'll provide funding for it to run another 30 years.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, so, but it's not really just a black and white issue, you know what I mean? So, like I said, obviously, it's been shown that incineration it's not it's not ideal because you're burning trash and that produces a lot of toxic pollutants to the surrounding community, usually community of low income and of color.
Mhm.
Um, but it's just usually when you present um, a zero waste plan like the one we worked on to city officials, they agree that it's something great and all, but it's just not something that can happen in a day. And then the argument always kind of presented is, well, if say that surf is shut down, then the other alternative as of right now would be just like, because so much trash is produced every day, would be to send it over to landfills, right? And
Right.
so, yeah, and so there's still a lot of like, which is worse. Landfilling is worse than incineration because there's also the trucks that have to take it to the landfills, which are outside of Long Beach.
Mhm.
So pollution from that, and then just yeah, landfilling still um, doesn't allow for things to break down properly and stuff like that. So incineration is basically the lesser of two evils. Yeah.
Mhm. Because I mean, I can assume that that whole industrial area, like the port in Long Beach, creates a ton of pollution and negative effects for the community around it. And I actually visited the incinerator itself. Well, I didn't go up to it, but I drove into like the area, the facility, and you can immediately notice that the air quality is like on such a decline just driving from where I am in Huntington Beach to the port of Long Beach.
Wow.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, it was kind of crazy. And what was something that was kind of startling to me, I guess, was I went and I asked different people in maybe like a half-mile radius around the area if they knew anything about the incinerator or um just basically if they knew it existed. And every single person that I spoke to didn't know what I was talking about. Or
Really?
yeah, and it was mostly an older demographic, but I was actually very surprised because I was thinking, you're in such close proximity to it. I would think that you would at least know what it is or that it exists in your community. But I was going to ask you, like, why do you think that is? Like, is it more just, people out of sight, out of mind type of thing, or is it just not a very widespread or widely known topic?
Yeah, I'm really shocked, and that's really sad to hear. Yeah, I mean, I do think, kind of like you said, out of sight, out of mind, like it is kind of within the port already, right? So it's kind of hidden away from them.
Mhm.
And I think people are just so, if it's in communities that are already kind of low income in the first place, like those people are just kind of focused on working every day and just trying to survive. They don't have the time or energy to be focused on other things that are going on in their community, right? And so that's why like organizations like East Yards for Environmental Justice are trying to do a nice job of creating workshops where or just going out and educating those people in the community so that they could become more aware of that. But I'm really shocked. That's really sad to
I
hear.
know it was shocking to me too. And I was thinking there are a lot of youth groups and communities that are, especially in Long Beach and in the surrounding area, that are focused on environmental justice and reshaping policy and whatnot for the future, like you were talking about. And I think that's a really great way of looking at it rather than, it's not black and white, like you said. It's more about solutions and finding better ways for the future rather than is incinerating trash better than a landfill?
Yeah.
So that's nice to hear that there's so many people, young people in the community that are um, fighting against those kinds of things.
Yeah, no, yeah. And like looking back on those sessions, it was really cool. Like even though it was mostly younger people, there was a few like moms, and sometimes they would be on like the Zoom call, like cooking while like trying, but they were trying, and they would have like an interpreter in those meetings too, because a lot of people in the communities like speak Spanish and stuff. So I'm really glad that they are trying to bring um that awareness because
I feel like educating the community, like everybody in the community, regardless of income or what have you,
Mhm.
probably gonna be pretty important.
Yeah, 100%. I actually made, let me see, I made these little zines
Oh my
for
God.
this youth fair that we were a part of, Compost 101. And I honestly thought it was really basic when I made it because it was for youth fair. So I was like, oh, for the kids. And it basically just like goes through like compost is a mixture of decayed organic matter that is used to improve soil quality. Like just goes through the basics of what composting is. You need your greens, your browns, your water, your oxygen, um, the like how to mix it properly for everything to break down and stuff like that. But I've like had a lot of like older people that like we've been putting these zines all over the city, like in bookstores, cafes and stuff, and they keep running out. And people have actually like older people have been like, I actually didn't know what composting is or how it works. So they're like, this is actually educational for me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then in the back of it, I like we put a quote that says, "In the process of nature, there is no throwing away." Right? There shouldn't be incineration or landfills and stuff like that. Um, like composting is just naturally recycling stuff. So it's a beautiful process.
Of somebody saying that about if they got rid of the incinerator, that would mess with the economy of Long Beach because of the waste to energy aspect of it. So they would no longer be providing power or you know,
Mhm,
to that to however many people, 30,000 you said,
mhm.
receive it from that. Has anyone in your meetings talked about how that would be resolved or like
Just on the top of my head, I mean, it's just connecting to a more like cleaner grid, like solar energy, wind energy, and stuff like that. But yeah, it is a very it is it's a it is a tough issue.
for now, the incinerator continues to operate until 2024. However, it seems like the issue really is in the hands of the young people that care about it. And only time will tell the changes that will be made to Long Beach in a post-incinerator world. Thank you.